Hi, everybody. It's Brent Messenger, Vice President of Community Engagement and Public Policy with Fiverr. I'm super excited to be talking with Eric Shoup, CEO of Peerspace, and we're going to be talking about bringing people together in 2021. Before I jump into the session, I just want to say, Eric, as a community professional who spent a good chunk of his early career looking for spaces to convene groups of people, I'm a huge fan of Peerspace. I love what you guys are building. I think it's a game changer for community teams. So thank you for that and welcome.
Well, thanks for that great introduction. And I'm excited to be here and be talking to the Fiverr community.
Yeah. Well, so for the people who don't know about Peerspace, not as familiar with it as I am, can you tell us what the company does?
Sure. Yeah, Peerspace is a marketplace for venue rental. So we have aggregated just under 20,000 spaces for rent by the hour across the U.S. And typically they're being used for one of three things. Either a meeting with your team, a brainstorm, a collaboration of some sort. Two, an event, so it could be a corporate event like a happy hour or a Christmas party, or maybe even a milestone birthday of yours or a baby shower. And the third are media productions. And this is for folks like marketers who are trying to create e-commerce content, maybe their product shoots, or maybe they're trying to do content for their social media feed. All the way to the next Instagram star filming video for their feed, all the way to people filming commercials and TV series and movies. So it's really, it's venue rental with all those intents behind it.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like you're in a lot of different spaces, and I read that your mission is to bring people together. So, while I don't want to dive into COVID too much, it's been a long year, and I know a lot of people have been talking about it today already. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's hard to miss that in this moment, in most places, people literally are not allowed to be together. So I'm curious, how does that affect Peerspace's mission of bringing people together? What does that look like in COVID, and what will it look like post-COVID?
Yeah. The reality is the mission is the same, right? To bring people together. We think fundamentally this is a human need that will always need to be met. Let's put it that way. During the COVID period, what we've seen is just a shift in who is able to still make use of our spaces. There are many people where it's simply not a priority to get together for that dinner party, and you're not getting your teams together for meetings quite yet. But there are some groups of people for whom the show must go on. And specifically what we've seen over the last year is creatives. Like, this has probably been the most innovative time that we've seen for creatives in our history, our 6-year history. So we've just seen an absolute explosion of content creation, as I was saying earlier, around e-commerce content, marketing content, social media content, video for everything from YouTube to commercials to TV series. So what we've seen is over the last year a massive increase in the amount of media productions being done in our spaces, while those other aspects of business are kind of quieter. But the mission is the same. Those things are going to come back as well. We're all going to be out having dinner parties soon enough, and we're going to be back collaborating with our team soon enough as well.
Well, it's great. I actually hadn't really thought of it that way, but if you're doing a kind of a smaller production, or you need some space where you can be safe, with a small group and sort of keep distance and do those things, you really need a unique space. Some of the traditional spaces aren't going to work for that. So it seems like you guys have a COVID niche, really.
Absolutely. So we've seen a huge increase in the number of people looking for outdoor spaces, as you could imagine, or they're really specific about, yes, this is the main area we want to film in, but we also need this offshoot room where we can have our team hang out and be socially distanced. So we've really had to work with our creative customers, our creator customers, to try to figure out spaces that are going to work for them during this time period.
That's amazing. Just to kind of put a finer point on it for the audience, when people think about renting spaces, I think they typically think about co-working spaces and traditional event venues, banquet halls, restaurants, that kind of thing. Peerspace is very different. There's some of the spaces I've seen are really incredible and unique. What are some of the most interesting and unique spaces that you guys have?
Yeah, and we certainly have the banquet halls and the restaurants and so forth as well,
Sure.
But we've always prided ourselves on trying to find these undiscovered gems in our cities. So we actually have 20 different categories of space on the site. And so just to give you some examples, some fun ones. If you wanted to go rent the Dark Knight's garage from the Dark Knight movies.
Dark Knight movies.
That's available. It's available now. Go rent it. If you saw it, you would totally recognize it immediately.
I'm already kicking myself for missing my birthday. I mean,
there you go, or your next team meeting or something. But we have everything from churches, right? So we've had people hold meetings in churches, or they do video shoots, or even like a music video in a church. We have people who have conferences or customer meetings in mansions. We outdoor spaces, everything from parks to rooftops. So we really try to find a variety of spaces to choose from. And the reason is because, look, the people we're getting together as a group for a reason. We always have a purpose, whether it's for work or for celebration. And people always want it to be exceptional. So yes, you could have it in a conference room. Yes, you could have it in a banquet hall, but that's been done to death. How about have it in a warehouse or on a rooftop? And so we're trying to provide that variety because we think that's the way that teams and individuals are going to get their best results, whatever it is they're trying to do.
I was just thinking the same thing about having an offsite and the traditional. No offense to any of the sort of traditional co-working spaces out there, but it's not exactly the most inspiring environment sometimes. But some of the places you just described, I'm a really big change of scenery guy when it comes to creative thinking. Sometimes it's as simple as just moving across the room, but oftentimes it's getting outside the house. And I think having those different places to go to spark some new creativity would be incredible.
The truth is that our environment massively impacts our psyche. And so you can imagine what that does writ large when you have a team of people all being impacted negatively or positively by their environment. So yeah, we've seen a big impact for ourselves as Peerspace, as employees when we do that, as well as for our customers. So we want to make sure that people have great options when they want to get together.
So this is a good example of this, and it occurred to me that it's possible, I suppose, that you haven't even seen this video, but I recently saw a TikTok video where somebody had rented a floating meeting room in Miami. I think it was in like a shipping container. It was this really cool space. And this guy took his girlfriend there for a special date, and they decorated it, and it was this incredible moment. And this video had like 250,000 likes and 1.3 million views. And it was, and then in the comments, people were like, where did you do this? How did you do this? And this discussion was about Peerspace. So it made me wonder, is user-generated content part of your marketing strategy? And if so, what really works for you guys, and what platforms?
Yeah, sure. It has been increasingly important over the course of the last year. It was really honed in on this creator audience. And using your example, this is where creators live, right? They live on social media, they live on YouTube, TikTok, and so if you want to try to speak to that audience and their audiences, those are the best vehicles. So, we get a ton of UGC from our customers, not only the location photos themselves, but in addition, every month we get over 1,000 photos and videos submitted to us organically from our customers, where they've given us kind of behind the scenes shots of what they've done, whether it's an engagement party or it's them filming a music video. And so we have just this wealth of amazing content.
Because they're proud of it, right?
They're proud of it.
That's why they right.
They're excited about it. They want it to be seen. And so we have just a wealth of content to choose from. And the way that we make use of it on our social channels, so Instagram has been a fantastic vehicle for us. It's such a visual channel that it lends itself to the type of content that Peerspace has to publish. And these photos just tell a story, right? So instead of looking at a photo of a blank space, instead you can see how a really creative person put it to good work, put it to good use. And so it kind of inspires our customers. And so Instagram has been a great vehicle for us. We've also created a property called Made in Peerspace, where you can see just a cataloging of some of the great content that our customers have created. I think we've barely scratched the surface. Increasingly we're seeing our customers talk about Peerspace in kind of the way that you mentioned on TikTok and on YouTube, on Instagram. And so I think there's more to do there for us. We've just barely
Yeah.
scratched the surface.
So I was wondering about that. I mean, Fiverr, we put our community front and center in a lot of our marketing. All of it, all of our photo shoots and all of our campaigns feature community members. And I'm wondering, it sounds like your community plays a big role in your marketing as well. Do you do anything specifically to sort of empower them or encourage that? It seems like what you described is like they're doing it for you, which is great. And they want to share their success and their excitement, which is amazing. But are you incentivizing them anyway, or giving them referrals, or are those things you're thinking about?
Yeah. So to date, it's been almost 100% organic. So we really haven't been sponsoring them or giving any kind of financial incentive, other than the fact that we will highlight their work. Now, we're thinking about ways that we could supercharge that. Because all these folks need to make a living, and so if there's some way that we could support them, we have dabbled with the idea of sponsoring spaces for creatives, because really what they want more than anything, they're passionate about their craft and showing what they can do in these spaces, and so sponsorships have been a good example, but admittedly we haven't had a real structured program around that over time. But it's clear there's an opportunity here for us to support our community and get some great content out of it.
It's incredible. I mean, I think what you said was, it's been happening organically. This is like what everyone at this summit is hoping to get, and I know it's such a tough thing to have, but when you've got it, it's incredibly powerful. I think you're like I said about the TikTok video. I don't know if you've even seen it. I mean, it's possible, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but there were 1.3 million views on it, and people were discussing Peerspace. So
yeah,
that's a great place to be. So shifting gears kind of a little bit, I noticed there's a focus on flex working solutions with something you guys are calling Team Together, and I'm wondering if you could just tell us a bit about that and sort of how it came to be.
Yeah, sure. So early in the COVID period, we as employees were starting to work from home. And we started to really question whether or not going back to the office was even what we wanted, even when it was possible. And that spurred us to think about, well, maybe it's not just us. Maybe everyone's thinking the same way. And so we did a survey of people across the U.S., asking them what their viewpoints were on the workplace of the future. And we got some interesting factoids out of it. So 70% of people said that they were considering moving away from their headquarter office to like other cities. That was one. 60% of people said that they had a far more favorable view of working from home than they used to in the past. And lastly, and this is kind of the kicker, 70% of people said they thought it was important for them to still get together with their colleagues in person on a monthly basis for them to be effective. Okay. So what that said to me was, in the future, it's going to be much more a hybrid situation where there's going to be more working from home, because there's lots of benefits to that, but people are still going to want to get together in person. And so maybe the traditional lease in the traditional office, maybe that's not the right mindset. And so at the same time, we met United Airlines, and we crafted this partnership called Team Together. And the concept was, in our future, people aren't going to go to the same office all the time. They're going to be wanting to get together on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis, and their teams are going to be increasingly dispersed, not only within their own city, but across the country. And so could we sell them a subscription, a membership, where they could come together in unique spaces and have the airfare from United as a replacement of the traditional office lease, and just kind of looking forward to what's the workplace of the future going to look like. And so that's the concept of Team Together. Let's have ad hoc spaces that we can come together when we need them, and regardless of where your team is. And let's make sure those spaces are inspirational. Let's make sure that when we come together, that's really unique, and head and shoulders above a standard office space.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when you were talking, it got me thinking about Zoom fatigue and this. How it is great to work from home, and it is nice. And we've, Fiverr has been a remote work platform. I mean, people have been doing it as long as Fiverr has existed, and we know the benefits. But people do need to get together, and it was interesting to hear the numbers that you were citing. Pretty large number of people want to be back together, and it's hard I think inside Fiverr, we've had this conversation too. It is hard to foster company culture and effective team collaboration when you're never together. So, it sounds like you're thinking of ways to solve that problem. And as we were talking about earlier, the spaces themselves can actually cultivate some collaboration and creativity. Is that kind of the essence of the idea?
Absolutely. Look, there's just no getting away from the fact that we as humans need to be with other humans. And I think that building culture is a key part. That important client meeting, that really important executive planning session, the collaboration, the brainstorming amongst marketing folks and product folks. Like, if it's important, you're still going to come together in person, right? Full stop. And so we need to find a way to enable people to do that in spaces that are worthy of their intent or whatever they're trying to get done, while not signing up to some long-term lease. That's not the way to go in the future. So I think we're all going to need to be looking for a hybrid approach to working going forward.
Pretty excited for that future. People have been saying the cliche, the future of work is here. The pandemic accelerated it. Obviously, the pandemic was awful and it continues to be a horrible thing for humanity, but it has accelerated some of these trends that were already in motion. And I am excited to see what it's like coming out on the other side of this, because I do think it's a sort of a more beautiful world when we're together and engaging in more exciting and unique ways. It's sort of the idea of the sort of dead gray office, is now officially a thing of the past, hopefully, which is great.
Yeah. Finally.
Very excited about that.
Finally.
So speaking of a different, future of work, I spent a little time on your website. Can you share with our audience here, what is a workcation?
Yeah. So, I think a workation is a term that has been very relevant during the COVID period, where people were choosing to continue their work, but from a different city or a different country, a different time zone. They were just trying to change their perspective. And so I think that will continue to be relevant even in the post-COVID period. But I guess I would say, you don't have to go outside the country, or you don't have to go outside the city to be able to have that same experience. Along the lines of what we've already been talking about today, it might just be about finding a different space in your same locale. It's about having a mental vacation to your workaday standard desk and seat and Zoom and just trying to change your environment. So I think that's what a workation's all about.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always thought I love to travel, like a lot of people, but I've always thought when I've gone to new cities, and maybe this is a bit of a workaholic in me, but I think it's a wasted opportunity. If I suddenly find myself in Paris, I want to spend as much time, being disconnected and enjoying Paris, like a normal person. But there's always that part of me that's like, I should meet some community members while I'm here, and being able to, and I do, and being able to tap into a Peerspace and have a cool, fun meeting, especially in a place where you kind of capture the essence of the city. That to me would be kind of a workcation hybrid, and it seems like that's just more and more possible these days, those kinds of things. So I love the idea. So Peerspace offers a variety of spaces. You were talking about co-working spaces, locations for photo shoots, empty storefronts. How do you appeal to your diverse community and create sort of a sense of unity among them? This is like the community guy in me can't escape these kinds of questions. How do you bring this disparate and diverse community together?
Yeah, this has been both a challenge and an opportunity, probably not unlike Fiverr, where you have a marketplace of different types of things that people are seeking, and they need different professionals on the other end to help them. Same goes for us. But I think there are a couple of things that are shared in our community that we can really play upon. Number one, they're seeking something off the beaten track, right? So they could easily go down the street to a WeWork or some other co-working chain to use that space if they wished. But they're either trying to find a unique space to meet with their team or their client, or they're looking for a certain aesthetic to help them create their vision for whether it's their e-commerce photo shoot or it's their social media campaign. So I think one of those shared things is you're looking for something that's off the beaten path, and so we tend to attract people who there may be a little edge to them, right? They're looking for something that's not a little bit different. They're not looking for the norm. And so we can play to that desire. And also I think they're just looking for different price points. So they're looking for a variety in price points of the spaces they're looking for. And finally, location. That's another great community unifier. All the folks who are in Atlanta, all the folks who are in Seattle, we definitely try to play off of that as well and try to foster communities in those local areas.
It's the great thing to focus on. So I was thinking, again, shifting gears a little bit, but I was just thinking, our audience here, there are many marketers, but there are also a lot of entrepreneurs in the Fiverr community who may be joining this. And we're talking now with a CEO, and I think you have an interesting perspective on this. Is there anything you're doing now, as a business that you never envisioned doing? Sort of maybe any success stories that surprise you, or anything that you just didn't anticipate, maybe when you started this journey with Peerspace?
Yeah. So it was not obvious that this media production part of the business even existed, right? When the business was founded, the mindset was meetings and corporate events. That was like the mindset, right? The founding story is that our founder, Ronnie, was an MBA student in New York. He was looking for a space to meet with his school colleagues, and the local coffee shop was always booked. It was always full. But yet every day he walked by this art gallery that was sitting there empty, this beautiful art gallery. And so
never had a showing.
So he pursued, he said, hey, can we meet here? And instead, they ended up meeting in these art galleries, from there on. So the point is, the mental model was about meetings and events, but it was our customers that led us to media production, and it has now become far and away the largest portion of our business. So I think that's a big aha, is that, best laid plans, right? That and sometimes you just have to follow your customers to, a place where your product, your service is really serving a need that you hadn't expected. And you've got to really understand that customer, and you've got to drill in deep and continue to go after that and try to solve all their needs. So in some respects, if you think about this COVID period, it has been a real opportunity for the company to focus on that one aspect of our business, because those folks are really busy, whereas the meetings and events business is kind of dead. And so in some ways, from a marketing and a product perspective, it has been a godsend to really drill on this particular customer base's needs. And I think that the takeaway, the takeaway for us and for all you entrepreneurs is that if you really want to succeed, you have to go really deep into that customer segment's needs. When you're trying to solve the generic customer's needs, that's when you get a very superficial solution. If you want to really take off, you've got to go deep with one audience. You've got to build your beachhead with that group.
I suppose that it could happen with a company that an audience, you have a high level of adoption with one segment that you didn't anticipate, or maybe that you didn't even want. In your case, obviously, it was a godsend, as you said, to have this opportunity to expand this audience. It's a great. I mean, I can easily imagine now that you're on every production manager's shortlist of sites.
So.
And this hope so. Oh my gosh! I mean, I've been involved in shoots and projects like that, and finding venues is very hard. So you must be. But I can also imagine for entrepreneurs out there that there may be a segment that they didn't think about, or an audience that they didn't think about, that they weren't really interested in pursuing. But I guess, an agile, nimble business would really need to think carefully about passing up an opportunity that people are telling you they want. Yeah. I mean, this is sort of generic business advice, but would you agree with that?
Totally. And I think what's important is that you're listening to your customers, and that shows up as data in your business, right? What are people searching? How are they finding you? Like, really understanding the mechanics of your business. And the second is there's no replacement for talking to your actual customers. You can look at data all day long, but it doesn't tell you the why. Why are people searching for that one thing? Why are they coming to your site? And that's where you've got to be constantly having a dialogue with new customers that are coming to your site, because that's how you uncover these opportunities that you didn't know existed. It's that combination of those two things.
That's a great point. I mean, it really gets to, like you say, talking to the customer and being good at collecting data. If you if you were just looking at your data in a flat way and you were saying, well, all these venues are being rented and that's all well and good, but I don't really know whether it's a birthday party or a video production company renting it out, you would really miss the boat on this huge opportunity.
Yeah, I've seen so many times throughout my career that the biggest mistake that people make, that professionals make, is thinking that they're the customer and that they actually know what the customer wants. I'm always blown away by that. I've made this mistake numerous times myself. And it's nothing like picking up a phone call with 3 or 4 customers to understand what's really needed. It doesn't take very long, but most people just don't even take that step.
I hear that all the time. I'm based in California, and I have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs and have been involved in many, many startups, and you hear that all the time. It's people are using our product this way, but they shouldn't.
Yeah, right.
Are they paying to use it the way they want to?
Yeah.
So as my last question for you, as I'm kind of looking over my questions, I'm laughing at this one because it's just nothing short of a monstrous question. But the question is, in your opinion, what does the future of flex spaces, remote work, and collaboration look like? and I'll yield the rest of the time.
In 10 words or less.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I think that I think the Peerspace is touching on a couple trends that speak to the broader remote work and flex space things. 2 things. One, our future of our workplace is more remote and it is more hybrid, meaning more working from home, more distributed teams. We're going to want to be able to get together on an ad hoc basis, occasionally, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and we may want to do it in different parts of the country. So that's part one, is the evolving workplace. I think that's going to be important for folks to have access to ad hoc spaces. Second is there's currently an explosion of content creation going on because we're all becoming increasing consumers of content across channels. And I think that to find the right aesthetic, to continue to pump out good content that represents your brand or you as an individual, I think you're going to need to find, you're going to need to have a variety of places to look for just the right aesthetic that's easy to book. So I think the future is ad hoc and flex space, and I feel pretty happy that where Peerspace sits right now in regards to those trends.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's super exciting. I think you guys, like I said when we started, have done something incredible. You've obviously tapped into a big need. I'm glad to hear that you've expanded with content creators in the pandemic, and that's a big new path for you. It makes tons of sense, and I'm excited for Fiverr to take advantage of it in a lot of different ways. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking to our audience here. Eric Shoup, CEO of Peerspace.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you, Fiverr community.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking to you.
Have a great day.